welcome to this explainer. So let's just dive right into a frustration I know we absolutely all share. Why our incredibly expensive gadgets always seem perfectly timed to break.
Seriously, have you ever noticed how your smartphone's battery just gives up literally right after the warranty expires? Or why a simple broken charging port suddenly means you're told you have to buy a completely new laptop? Well, you're definitely not alone in this. Today, we're going to unpack exactly why this happens and how the devices we rely on every single day are often fundamentally designed to restrict our control. We're looking at the hidden tricks behind obsolescence.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at the myth of tech magic, engineering for expiration, software as a lock, the hidden technology tax, and finally, the right to repair.
Section 1, the myth of tech magic. Because, spoiler alert, tech is not sorcery.
Arthur C. Clarke famously said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And, this perfectly captures the psychological trap companies use against us. Because modern devices like smartphones are just so wildly complex, they can feel like alien technology. If a company can convince you that a device is pure magic, just an unexplainable black box, well, you won't even try to fix it when it breaks. You'll just accept that only the manufacturer has the mystical power to service it.
But what's the reality here? Tech is just a bunch of engineered tools. No magic wands involved, I promise. Engineers are just using the fundamental laws of physics to build these devices. And if humans built it, humans can fix it. Whether it's a mobile phone motherboard or an air conditioner moving heat from one place to another, it's really just science and engineering. There is absolutely no reason an independent technician shouldn't be able to repair it.
Moving on to Section 2, engineering for expiration, or how things are literally designed to break.
So the core concept we need to understand here is planned obsolescence. Basically, this is the historical and, honestly, ongoing strategy of designing a product with an artificially limited useful life so it inevitably becomes obsolete. The goal is super simple: to force you, the consumer, into a continuous, never-ending cycle of buying replacements to keep company profits climbing.
And get this isn't exactly a new phenomenon. It actually dates all the way back to the 1920s with light bulb cartels deliberately limiting bulb lifespans and General Motors introducing annual vehicle updates just to create continuous demand. Fast forward to 2003, and we saw massive public outcry over iPod batteries dying after just 18 months. And in the 2010s, we saw those notorious laptop butterfly keyboards that could be completely destroyed by a single speck of dust. Yes, literally a tiny piece of dust. To actually enforce this obsolescence, manufacturers use some pretty clever physical hardware tricks to block independent technicians. We see components heavily glued together, the use of proprietary screws, designed specifically so your home toolbox is totally useless, and memory drives, SSDs, soldered directly onto motherboards. What does this mean for you? It means if a tiny, cheap chip fails, you can't just replace it. You're told to throw the whole expensive device away. Section 3, software as a lock. Let's talk about the invisible barriers, which are arguably much worse. This brings us to a really controversial practice known as parts pairing, or serialization. This is software that basically prevents a replacement part from working unless it's authenticated by a password or approval directly from the manufacturer. Think about that. Even if you take a perfectly good original screen or battery from an identical device and swap it in, the software will simply reject it, just because it lacks a digital handshake. Across so many different industries, software is basically acting as a gatekeeper. We've seen Apple throttle the performance of older iPhones via iOS updates. In agriculture, John Deere uses proprietary software that stops farmers from fixing their own tractors without paying for official authorization. Volkswagen famously used software to bypass emissions testing, and Tesla has utilized software updates to lock out fast-charging features if a vehicle is repaired by unapproved third parties.
Notice the major shift in corporate strategy here? Physical locks, like glues and weird screws, well, they can eventually be bypassed by clever technicians using specialized tools like hot air soldering stations. But digital locks? Using digital rights management and parts pairing? That is the modern manufacturer's most effective tool. They legally and technically block you from using the hardware you rightfully own.
Section 4, the hidden technology tax. Because unrepairable tech definitely has a cost. When manufacturers lock down parts and software like this, they create what's called a repair monopoly. This is an aftermarket monopoly where a company entirely controls the market for fixing its own products. Without independent competition to keep them honest, they can charge whatever they want. And for us, that leads to higher prices, massive service delays, and far less choice when things inevitably go wrong.
Just look at the stark contrast in durability between the past and the present. Back in the day, appliances like refrigerators easily lasted 25 years. Actually, get this. Some 1990s laptops are literally still running engine control units in modern race cars today. Meanwhile, present-day devices force replacements every few years. Because of this lack of repairability, we're continuously leaking our personal wealth just to keep our baseline technology running.
$200 million. Let that sink in. That was the exact settlement amount paid out by Apple for throttling older smartphone batteries, a huge controversy widely known as Batterygate. Now, while the company claimed the throttling was just to prevent unexpected shutdowns, the total lack of transparency pushed countless users into buying brand new, highly expensive phones instead of just getting a cheap battery replacement.
When we actually look at the numbers, the financial impact is just glaring. During that whole controversy, a battery replacement dropped to $29, down from the standard $79. Compare either of those repair numbers to the massive price of buying a completely new device, which easily costs several hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Being barred from a simple, cheap battery swap acts as a continuous, hidden tax on your wallet.
Finally, Section 5, the right to repair. Let's talk about taking back control.
The good news? Consumers and lawmakers are actually successfully fighting back. The momentum really started in 2012, with Massachusetts passing a landmark auto repair law. Fast forward to 2021, and France created a mandatory repairability index scoring devices on a scale of 1 to 10 so consumers actually know what they're buying. By 2023, Minnesota passed a groundbreaking law covering home appliances, and in 2024, Oregon made history by legally banning the practice of parts pairing. So, the law is slowly but surely forcing companies to provide manuals, parts, and fairness to everyone.
But hey, you don't have to wait for new laws to pass. You can take actionable steps today to protect your devices and your bank account. Choose to buy from brands that actually prioritize repairability. Demand devices with accessible batteries. And please, stop replacing a slow laptop when all it really needs is for you to open it up and clean the dust out of its jammed cooling fans. And of course, support transparent legislation that protects your consumer rights.
Which brings us to our final thought. The technology in our lives is incredibly advanced. Absolutely. But it is not magic, and you shouldn't be permanently locked out of the things you spend your hard-earned money on. So will you demand the power to fix what you own, or will you keep paying the hidden technology tax? Definitely think about that the next time you're told a broken gadget simply can't be saved. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the right questions.